Betsy, welcome. An absolute pleasure. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of tech companies overbuild their workforce. What should they be doing now?
I think the key thing to do is to look at your workforce and look at it in thirds. There's the top third you can't live without. There's the bottom third that you know should go. And then be really tough on the middle and make fewer, deeper cuts. And also over-index. Cut the G&A, the overhead. Preserve your line, your sales, your marketing, your product development, your manufacturing. These are the parts of the organization that drive outcomes, and everybody else is just overhead and cost.
What about, I suppose, the optics, the way that you treat those people that you're going to cut, those jobs? What does it mean for the public looking in at these companies? It doesn't look great.
Well, I think you have to treat everybody with dignity. And I think when you fire them over Teams or over Zoom, it's kind of brutal. And there's no reason not to be kind and gracious. But you have a practical reality. You have to live through this big downturn. You have to reset because you had overhired for growth. And in fact, the market is rewarding profit, not unprofitable growth. So you've got to get there so that you can keep the core alive for the future.
Let's focus on cyber threats. What do you see as emerging cyber threats, and how should companies be prepared?
You know, it is shocking, and I'm sure your audience will be as amazed as me, that 62% of all companies in the U.S. have had a breach in the last year, according to KPMG. And most of the cyber threats still come from phishing and social engineering, 93% from phishing. So you have to create a culture of security and train people. And then additionally, you need to figure out, under the umbrella of digitization and digital transformation, we integrated all of our IT systems to get fast insights. But we didn't go back and re-architect, and we didn't go back and say, how about the operating technology, the factories that manufacture things? Do they need to be as integrated, or can we put an air gap or a two-factor authentication or better permissioning so that when, God forbid, there is a ransomware attack, you're able to bring those systems back up? And can you even do it without the internet? Can you do it manually? So you have to go back and look, because ransomware now is 40 million, 30 to 40 million is the estimate. And, you have an example. Here's poor Dole, and they were, breached in February. They still can't get their manufacturing 100% back up. So we have to expect it and go back and re-architect so that we can segregate appropriately.
Betsy, can I ask you, are you excited by the technological advancements at the moment, or are you slightly wary?
I'm both. I think that generative AI is like turbocharging the cyber criminals. They're going to be able to impersonate you and me. Do you know, even now, look at what's happening with deliberate disinformation. You had somebody create a fake account on Twitter and say that insulin is free. Eli Lilly is giving out free insulin. They never said that. And then 9 months later, Eli Lilly has to drop their insulin price by, oh my gosh, I believe that it was 70%. That's a lot of gross margin that you can't put back into funding the next generation of product. So, technology is a little bit of a blessing and a curse.
You spoke about dignity earlier, and before I let you go, I have to ask you, I know that that's something you're passionate about, societal issues, that sort of thing, and we're seeing a lot of companies now taking stances on issues related to politics and society. What do you make of that now?
Well, I think that corporations have to do a better job of explaining the ESG, what it really means. There are the World Economic Forum 4 principles of people, prosperity, the planet, and governance principles. And you have to bring in your Gen Z and your millennials, who are the ones advocating for a social voice loudly and a political voice, into that. And otherwise, you end up with surprising and unintended consequences. For example, Netflix. They had so many of their creative content people just on one side of the political spectrum. So they figured out, after a little while of losing market share, that half of the market wasn't engaging with their content. So they had to go back to the creatives and say, listen, we're going to have to create content that may not agree with your personal, social, and political values. And if you can't get on board with that, you're going to have to leave. And so, it's important because the problem, or the worry, I should say, with having your employees very activated on social and political issues is it's the nature of social and politics deliberately is designed to be divisive. Your view, my view, I don't agree, here's why. And the problem is it polarizes people and it distracts them. And what you want is to unify your employees. You want every mental calorie on the business, but you want everyone heard, you want them included, you want to create tolerance and unity. And the way to do it? Create a policy that you explain to your employees, you get their input on when we will speak, why we will speak. Is it core to our brand? Who's asking us to speak, the employees or the customers? Who will we offend? And is it correct that we should speak at all? And when you create the policy together, you get buy-in and people understand it and you reinforce your values.
Betsy, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure to be with you.